We'd been fighting all weekend. And I've said I just can't keep doing this anymore. It's something I'll live with for the rest of my life.
Time is 10:40 p.m. on the 5th of the 10th, 2015. My name is Ryan Jeffcoat.
4 years ago, Jonda Stephen found herself in a life or death situation.
You've got an injury above your right eye there and your eye's a bit black. Can you tell me about that?
He hit me with the iron.
When you mean iron, what do you mean by an iron?
You know, a clothes iron. He was bashing me with the iron.
Chris Tiffin was Jonda's first serious partner since the death of her husband in a car accident 20 years ago. It wasn't long before the relationship turned abusive.
He beat me once with a baseball bat and he'd tie me up and leave me in the laundry for hours.
After suffering months of abuse at his hands, she fought back.
And he had my laptop and he was going to smash it. And so I just grabbed for it, and next thing he's picked up this iron and he's bashing me up against the side of the head, and my head's sort of going like that. And just in the corner of my eye, I saw a knife, and I grabbed the knife and I stabbed him, and I just wanted him to stop beating me with the iron.
Police charged Jonda with murder.
I mean, I'm the victim. I was protecting myself.
From the outset, Jonda told police she acted in self-defence.
You've raised an issue with us about being struck in the face with an iron. You've all got an obvious injury. We would very much like to explore that information. However, you've decided that you don't want to answer any questions at this time. You'd like to get some further legal advice.
It's more, I want to go home. I remember them interviewing me and I was just really confused and scared.
There was some emphasis put on the fact that Jonda had washed the knife that had been used when she was protecting herself from being hit by the iron. She was concussed. She was suffering from PTSD. When people are in that kind of state, the psychiatric evidence is that they do all sorts of strange things.
Someone rang 000.
That was me.
That was you?
Yeah.
Why did you need ambulance and police?
Because I'd been in a domestic dispute and I'd stabbed Chris. He was hitting me with the iron. Sorry, I just can't believe that I've killed him.
The police fact sheet stated Jonda showed no remorse, and while she claimed to be the victim of ongoing physical abuse, it was pointed out she never reported it.
They say love's blind. I know that, yeah. I was very blind. I didn't see the person that he was at the time.
Despite having a visible facial injury from being hit with a clothes iron, Jonda was never taken to hospital.
The police, for some reason, formed the view that Jonda was drunk.
CCTV shows Jonda at one point slumping to the ground in the police holding cell. It would be 11 days later in jail, where an X-ray would reveal a fractured eye socket.
If Jonda had been given a thorough examination at the hospital, as would ordinarily happen, they would have discovered that she had the fractured skull. They would have discovered the fractured elbow that she had. They would have discovered the torn shoulder ligament.
Jonda's life was unravelling. She was sacked from her administrative job at Broken Hill Hospital. Before being granted bail, Jonda spent 3.5 months behind bars, including Sydney's Silverwater Prison and Broken Hill Correctional Facility. There she was visited by friends Karen Kemp and Rebecca Polak.
When she came in, she was in a white jumpsuit, and I think what was most confronting about it was that it was all zipped up from the back and she was actually padlocked into it.
It was a cage. We were taken to a cage within the grounds of the jail. We could see all the other prisoners with their families sitting at picnic tables, and we were in this cement and bars cage.
It's terrible at Silverwater. You survive, and that's about it. And I'm not trying to lie or hide anything. You know, like I'm not denying that I stabbed him.
In a second interview, police questioned Jonda's account she killed Chris in self-defence.
Did you inflict the injury to your eye with the iron yourself?
No.
Did you stab Chris, and then did you stage the crime scene to make it look like a struggle had occurred and inflict the injury upon yourself?
No.
Earlier you used the words that you murdered Chris.
Because that's what I've been charged with.
I have no problem in accepting that you have been the victim of abuse. I think that is accepted and documented with people that we've spoken to and text messages that we've read. I've also read text messages where Chris is asking you if there's any chance for the relationship to continue, that he loves you.
In 2017, Jonda's lawyers asked the police commissioner to remove the officer in charge, Ryan Jeffcoat, from the case, claiming he lacked objectivity and an understanding of domestic violence.
It's 11:02 p.m, 5th of the 10th, 2015. I'm just going to conclude the record of the interview.
We thought that his view of the case was flawed from the beginning, and that he didn't have an independent mind to bring to the investigation or the prosecution.
Police dismissed the complaint.
I can't understand how they saw me as being a perpetrator when Chris was twice my size and strength.
Lawyer Pauline Wright says at one point a magistrate downgraded Jonda's charge to manslaughter, but the DPP continued to pursue murder. She tried 3 times to have the murder charge dropped.
It's really hard to know why the DPP was so intent on prosecuting her for murder, even though the evidence corroborated her account of it, that it was self-defence.
It's not right.
Jonda's trial started in February last year. Kerry Bellew was a member of the jury.
I think it was a case that shouldn't have happened, honestly. Taxpayers' money, her life. Really?
The court was told of Chris Tiffin's violent past.
He had a criminal record, including of violence, carrying a knife in public. He'd been to jail. He was not a nice man.
There was one case that a woman actually made a statement, and it was heard in court, that she was continually abused by him, bashed up, and he broke her nose and he broke her wrist.
9 days into the trial, the prosecution conceded it couldn't prove its case. The judge instructed the jury to acquit Jonda of murder and manslaughter.
I'm supposed to just forget everything. I'm acquitted and everything's all rosy.
It's nice to catch up again though.
I think that what we've got to see to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen to other women is that police do get proper training about domestic violence, about the way that it makes women behave.
Jonda is now suing the New South Wales government, including the police, DPP and ambulance. Her legal action includes claims she was maliciously prosecuted, that her injuries went untreated, and she suffers ongoing psychiatric injury as well as reputational damage. Jonda's also seeking compensation from Broken Hill Hospital for unfair dismissal.
I struggle trying to get my life back together. To move past that.
I worry about Jonda all the time.
I don't think she's coping because she's not the same person that she was.
All of the parties named in the civil lawsuit declined 730's request for interviews, citing the current legal action. The officer in charge of Jonda's case, Ryan Jeffcoat, suffers from PTSD and is medically retired from the police force. He says the assertion that Jonda's murder charge resulted from a lack of understanding of domestic violence and self-defence is without merit. He says the investigation was without bias and ultimately the DPP decided to continue with the murder charge.
There needs to be a lot more work done to change their attitudes. I was a murderer for 2.5 years.
Jonda has a new job in the public health system and is hoping her case will prevent other domestic violence victims going through what she did.
I suppose if nobody else stands up to the system, who is? Who's going to change things? Because this shouldn't happen to people. It's not right.
You can find a full statement from Ryan Jeffcoat, the officer in charge of Jonda's case, on our website. If you're in an abusive situation or you know somebody who is, call 1-800-RESPECT. If it's an emergency, please call 000. Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.